Hi there and welcome to the Solution Focused Thinking Club tutorial. I'm John Bullock, Founding Director, and today joining me is...
My name's Nick Bishop and I'm a fellow director in the business. Hi everyone.
And today's tutorial is about goal setting. Generally, why should we have goals? There's going to be subsequent tutorials after this one regarding different goal defining techniques, so we'll go into them in a little bit more in depth for you. But this one is generally about why should we have goals? What is the point? Why should we bother? We know that we have goals at work a lot of the time, so why should we have them at home? So what's the importance of goals, Nick? Why is having a goal important?
Well, let me define it by use of the term goal in the first place. Because if I was on a parkland or a football pitch with a few pals, I could enjoy a fancy kick around, we'd have some fun perhaps. But if there was no actual definition of who is winning, who has scored the most, who has scored the most goals, to go back to that term, it would have no purpose whatsoever, no relevance.
Yes.
So we have to have something that shows us, are we going in the right direction?
Yeah. And also, if we don't have goals, because we know how the brain works, and there are other tutorials as well on how the brain works and what happens when you talk to yourself and so on, so check them out. But if we don't have goals, the brain doesn't have that direction, does it? It doesn't know what you want to aim for, which is why I always find it a little bit crazy that the majority of the population have work goals but don't have personal ones. And actually, aren't personal ones more important maybe than the work ones?
Well, you could argue that if you're happy and, I'm not sure if successful is the right term in a personal life, but perhaps it is in terms of relationships, you're going to be happier in the workplace.
Yeah, without a doubt. So why have goals? It gives the brain direction. It gives you something to aim for. It is, unfortunately, one of the main reasons people don't have goals is because it is a bit worky. It's something you do at work. However, there's a very simple reason why businesses put goals into play, because it means that then the organisation has direction and can celebrate success when they've achieved that goal, which will give you a great recall memory of being successful, and it builds the success of the brain. So it's a no-brainer that businesses have goals because they work, if they're defined correctly, of course, and see the other tutorials on that, if they're defined correctly. But there's a really big reason to have them. So what we want to help you do is understand why actually it's important to have them in our personal lives.
I think you made a very good point about business, because whether you've been sales or service, whichever sector you're in, are we selling more than last month? Am I improving? Have we got more happy customers? Am I pleased with my own performance? It's very hard to measure without having some kind of standards, which we call goals in, John.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's face it though, we all do have goals during the day, even personal ones. The problem is the goals are about the minutiae of the day. What I mean by that is, what time's lunch? Because that's a goal. At the end of the day, I want to get to 12 o'clock to have lunch, or I'm going to go swimming today, or I'm going to play golf, or I'm going to take the kids here. They're all goals that we just haven't defined them. So we know that we can have goals, but the benefit of setting your own goal, as well as the benefit of setting goals in business, which we know that there's a benefit of that, is really, really quite important, because A, it gives the brain direction, but then it gives you something that you can work back from to create a plan in order to take action.
Now, I think what's interesting there, John, is the point we're used to having goals imposed on us, which is perhaps the business, although the more enlightened business perhaps are working together collaboratively, management and the team, it's a collaborative approach. So we're not always therefore as used to setting personal goals for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there are a few people, I've heard this term, and it makes me laugh a little bit, this term, bucket list, when it's knocked about. And, I have a life list. I'm sure you have a life list as well, Nick. And the reason we call it a life list is because we want to focus on the life and not kicking the bucket, hence the bucket list. But having a list of goals you want to achieve in your life, one of the reasons people don't do it is because they're a little bit unsure on how to define that goal, and that's okay because we've got further tutorials on that. But another reason they do it, unfortunately, is if they set themselves a goal and don't achieve it, they're worried about the fear of failure. And that stops a lot of people from setting goals, that fear of failure. My advice on that would be, they're your goals. So that's okay. if you've got a goal that you want to achieve, and then your life changes for whatever reason. I remember I had 2 life goals, one to do a tandem parachute jump and one to do a single parachute jump. Years ago I did the tandem and I left the single on my list thinking I will do it later in life. Then I chose to have 3 children, and all of a sudden my priorities changed, and jumping out of a perfectly good aeroplane doesn't actually suit me anymore, you know? But I didn't kind of go, oh, I failed because I've got it written down and I haven't done it. I just chose to change the goal because they were my goals. So that's the beauty about having your personal goals.
I like the point you made about the bucket list, because in a way, a bucket list is things you want to do, achieve, whatever it may be. But for too many people, the bucket list is just a dream.
Yes.
It becomes a goal when they think, what do I now need to do to achieve that item on the bucket list? Which goes back to why have a goal. Otherwise, it's just a whimsical fancy.
Absolutely. And remember, without having goals, the brain has no direction. The brain will only focus on the minutiae of the day. Now, don't get me wrong, that might be quite important if you need to get through the day. But without having goals for yourself, your brain won't pick up on the things it needs to. And part of your brain's job is picking up on the things that you tell it to look for. So, for instance, if I said to you, notice everything the colour blue today, if you go off now, Nick, and you meet somebody later and they're wearing blue, you'll kind of go, oh, I've seen a lot of blue today. That's a coincidence. It wasn't a coincidence. It was the fact that your brain was focused on it. Same with goals. If you don't set goals, your brain can't pick up on anything to help you achieve it. On the other side of that, if you do set goals, it's amazing how much you find out about that particular subject just by luck. There's no luck involved. It's your brain focusing on it because that's what you've told it to do.
But what we also say, when you achieve certain things, it gives you the feel-good factor, the confidence to go out and achieve even more. So they may not be directly related. You might have 4 or 5 goals, 2 or 3 maybe in the business, 2 or 3 maybe personal. But once you start achieving one another in each field, you start to feel better about yourself, even though they may not be directly related. So you've got to achieve even more.
Absolutely. And you make another good point there, Nick, actually, which is about having balance with your goals. One of the reasons I see people that fail quite a lot or don't quite achieve what they want to achieve is because they've either got too many goals going on, or it's out of balance. And what I mean by that is they've got 100 work goals and no personal goals, or they've got 100 personal goals and no work goals. You know, they've got goals for their children or with their children as well. Balance, having balance in your goals, a few goals for you personally, maybe a few for your family, maybe some at work. If you've got a nice balance within your goals, your energy levels are able to cope with it effectively and you're able to be more successful with it. So let's sum up the 3 key learning points then for this tutorial on why to have goals. Learning point number 1 is you have goals already, but they're generally just based on the minutiae of the day. So you might want to now choose some of the goals that you want to work on for the next week, month, year, whichever distance you want to work on. Learning point number 2 is goals give the brain direction. Without the goals, the brain will only focus on whatever's in front of you for the day. And learning point number 3 is have balance with your goals. And that sums up today's tutorial. Thank you for your time, Nick.
Pleasure, John.
Look at the rest in the series and we'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.
Bye.